Now, I want us to talk about one more right, which will be the final discussion we have, which is basically your rights. And I'm sure a lot of people are interested in this to see what you have to say about this. The right to acquire and own immovable property in Nigeria. And talk to us about that. I mean, what exceptions to one property in Nigeria?
Actually, every citizen is expected to be able to acquire immovable properties. I think it's governed by Section 43. It says that every citizen shall have the right to acquire and own immovable properties anywhere in Nigeria. If you look at the states where we are in, there are some markets that are actually dominated by some people of the country. You see houses at Sabo and some major markets, the building is there which used to house family houses, compound families, actually owned by the Igbos. This is actually exercising the same rights, I won't lie to you. And that can actually buy and own capire and own movable properties in Nigeria. Now, the only thing I'll just add to it is that straight and simple, you should get it straight. You cannot own a property anywhere in Nigeria, and owning this makes you an indigent. Yes. You can buy a property somewhere outside the country or inside the country or anywhere around the country, and because you have bought it, it now makes you an indigent. Or it now gives you the right to talk down on the indigents. But it's now state that no, as a result of you buying the property or because of no, it doesn't actually work that way. It doesn't actually work that way. I am looking forward. This is my own personal opinion that when someone has a property in the country, you have a property around, and they're doing well, and people can at festivals, local festivals, you are well represented. You support at social gatherings, you support, and you are not involved in crime, hanky panky, fraud, but instead, the place where you own a property, you are ensuring you're adding value and you're ensuring that it's even development. If you start to claim to be an indigent of that place in the long run, no one will say no, you are not an indigent. Why? Because you have already behaved in a way like a normal person that God has created as being. But if from the process of buying the property to start to step on toes, you start to say, Bina Anabiko, right? People will start to say, oh, this person is not a good person. And I'm still believing that there will be a time in Nigeria that um it's not because of the same rights to own properties, because owning properties is like an investment. It's like an investment. And when you have your investment, that's where your heart is. When you have investment, your investment is meant to work for you much more better. So as a result of that, and where you have make your daily bread should not be a place where you want there to be work done. Should not be a place where it should be in chaos or hierarchy. It should be a place that will be a place of comfort. I'm looking forward that there will be a time in Nigeria where no owners of properties will actually be deemed to be just like the indigenous people by virtue of the way they have related and behaved. Not that um there will be a stepping on toes, talking down, um hyper praise of themselves, but everyone should just be there should just be a cordial relationship between both the so-called visitors and the so-called indigents, so that one day the visitors is turned. I can sorry I have to be in the scriptures.
You don't have to open the guide.
Uh-huh. If you look at the Passover that was given by God through Moses to the children of Israel, you would wonder, and if you read your Bible very well, that aliens that were not part of the Israelites, they actually partook even in the first Passover. And when God was going to tell Moses about it, he said, if any alien is going to partake out of it, there are some certain conditions. He should actually have himself, one, circumcised. Number two, he should ensure that he does not eat the unleavened bread made without yeast, for I think 7 days or 14 days thereabout before the Passover lamb is killed at twilight, meaning that a foreigner, an alien, a non-indigen can actually be indigenized if is willing to ensure he stays with the conditions to become one of them. So basically, if I'm a Yoruba person and I'm living in Onitsha and I speak Igbo, I sent Igbo children on scholarship. I even built um a center for development, educational center for development from them. I'm making my living in Onitsha, and I'm ensuring that yes, I'm not transgressing against the what's it called now, the rules, the laws of Anambra State, and I'm making my money. I'm sure nobody in Onitsha will now look down on me and say, no, it's just a Yoruba people. No, 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 no. It should not be like that. I've contributed value. If they're having festivals, and what's it called? I'm now humble enough to participate in the festivals. It's as good that I am an indigene. That is where I believe Nigeria will. But basically, the reality in Nigeria is we use politics to divide ourselves through religion, use politics to divide ourselves through tribe, use politics to divide ourselves through so many other things. So, and when there's no unity, already the peace. And that's one of the issues we have faced in this nation, which we believe one day the National Orientation Agency will look into and ensure that the unity of the country is more deepened, strengthened, and not that chaos as a result of tribal sentiments are taken. Thank you very much.
Just a follow-up to that question. And circumstances where and the better he beats up on a company they will run.
Yes, yeah, the instances where you can be evicted from your property where you own, but there will be compensation for you, provided that the property is well registered with the government. You know, if there's something there's an act for the Land Use Act, and underneath it, within the provisions of the Land Use Act, there's what we call government acquisition. The government wants to acquire a place, which happens to be your property, for the purposes of public benefits, that is for public purposes. Yes, you can actually lose your property. And if your property is duly registered with the government, you are entitled towards compensation. If it is not, at least there can still be a mild compensation. But basically, yes, it's true. One can lose one's property.
As a senior in Nigeria, the government acquired property. It wasn't in billions and millions of naira from business individuals, and there was a lot of public outcry from civilians, and there was a lot of here and there, and the governments have the right and things like that. So I mean that's why I want us to educate people the legality, such rather their right is being infringed. In such a case, what can be done? Or
So the thing is, sometimes we do not trust our government, yeah? And most times the government does not trust us. Let me put it that way. Acquisition should be something that should be done in a gradual manner. And don't blame we the people. Let me put it that way. You don't blame we the people, because we hardly have a visionary government. I'll give you an example of something that is personal to me. I'm from Ibadan here, and Anika from Ibadan. You have a compound family, you have a village. The government acquired my grandfather's large expanse of land because they saw clay. There was a large deposit of molten clay there. When they wanted to start to work on that acquisition, the government's term tenure expired. Another government came, and no one said anything about it. And as that expired was acquired, there was no publication, number one. There was just only a notification. Now, another government came in that spent longer years and they never did anything on it. Okay, when they started farming back on the land and was enjoying the fruit of this labor, they came back to say, there's a physician on this land, though. Who told you to go back to this land? I was like, but we didn't see me go for the past 16 to 18 years. I know. Yeah, it was the government of then. Now the government of now is looking to it. You get it? Now, okay, are we now to start the process from beginning? No, only the notification is enough. What I'm trying to say is simple. Government should be sincere with the people. If them say projects you want to do, the acts to do it. acquisition of people's property. Let there be a good notification, publication, and every step that the land use act has made so that nobody may be in doubt. Now, I prefer and I pray that the projects of government should not only end with a political party, it should be successive. If we are taking the land at Ring Road, for example, and it is AAA party that is there, when BBB party comes there, it should actually continue with it. Not that when BBB party has used 25 years or 24 years, then that is when AA will now say, okay, that road I was about doing there, it will not be possible again. And that's actually one of the issues. Yes, I'm aware that, yes, the current Oyo state government acquired some privileged properties, but let us look at the way it was acquired. Look at the way it was acquired. If it confirms with the law and all these people were notified and there were publications and everything as to the provisions of the Land Use Act was actually complied with, the next thing is to negotiate a way out, not to stop the government's project, but to ensure that there can be a balance. I'm sure it's not affect everybody, but to accept some people. And compensation should be in terms of economic realities. Because when the roads or the projects are done, landowners around that places start to, up their price. Prices of properties they start to skyrockets, and it becomes the benefit of everybody just because the government has decided to have a place for public purposes.
But what of instances where the government, just like you mentioned, a government scheme acquired it some years later, it is not being used for the purpose it was said that it was acquired for. Let's say, for example, they acquired it, they want to make rails, they'll make new roads. And the next thing, yeah, they've turned it to a private estate and they're sharing it amongst themselves. I mean, in such an instance, what recourse does a citizen have?
We should be sincere with government, and government should be sincere with the people. It's actually out of place for a government, and there are so many cases for a government to actually acquire a property that is meant for public purposes and same is made private property of another person. I once read a case, I think some years back, that happened, I think, in Niger State. Oh, I can't remember the states very well now. The person the person wanted to buy a house and he could not buy the house. But it was the house of someone he knows. The person now became a governor, I think maybe a military administrator, and he now acquired the house as government property and now sold it to a friend. Now, the person that he acquired his house now sued the governor, sued the friend, and what the court held was simple. The essence of compulsory acquisition or the essence of acquisition by the government is for public purposes. Is for public purposes. You cannot convert him. And I think that is the law as of today. It is actually wrong for properties to be acquired, private properties to be acquired, be allocated to private people. You get what I'm saying? You don't rob Peter to pay Paul because you're in government. It's actually not equitable. And that's just the way it is. Anyone who is affected by compulsory acquisition, which is turned to private use, is wrong. It can come to the court. But I can tell you that the government is also very smart. And I'll tell you how smart government is. Most of the acquisitions that you see that are being turned to private are under public-private partnership. Did you get it? Public-private partnership. So as far public is still there, they say it's still for the benefit of what? The public. So you know that the government who has lawyers that are thinking for them. So when they say a place is actually acquired, and then I now say, oh, this reality is there. Well, and ask, they'll tell you it's just a PPP. So that's just the way it is. So basically, I think I've been able to answer your questions very well. But if you are still convinced, you can still challenge sin in court to know whether the PPP can work on a private land, so that we can expand our jurisprudence. And that's just it.